This is Drop Ball Pass Wednesday. It is the last day of the opening round of games one in the opening, not the opening round, because the opening round would have been 8-9. In the round of eights in the MLS playoffs. We've got MLS news, obviously, Super Draft news, possible adjustment there. Obviously, hour number one, we're going to talk about whatever's on your mind when it comes to Atlanta United and Columbus Crew. And reminder tonight, the game is on Star 94. Not on 92.9, the game. They've moved it over to Star 94, I think basketball. Whatever sport that is. So basketball tonight is 92.9. The game itself is on Star 94 with Mike and Jason. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they have to do the super, hyper, mega long pregame show because kickoff, I think, is 7:25. Let me check that real quick. And let's see. I know this is incredible TV and radio this morning, but I want to get this right as a part of our day. And let's see. Coverage starts at 7. Okay, so 7 o'clock, Star 94. It is Atlanta and Columbus. So Star 94, 7 o'clock, Atlanta and Columbus tonight. And it was snowing. It was blanking snowing in Columbus last night. Temperature supposed to be, I think, in the 40s for game time. And, you know, it might affect Columbus more because of how their offense is supposed to run. But, yeah, whatever is on your mind when it comes to Atlanta United and Columbus Crew. We'll talk about that in hour number one. We'll go over the matchup. We'll go over the matchups that we've seen this year. And we'll get into your questions when it comes to Atlanta United Columbus Crew. That's hour number one. Hopefully Dylan Butler can join us if he's not stuck in really bad traffic because of weather and taking folks to school at 10 o'clock and then 10:30. As always, it's Reffing Down Here. And Bart Keeler from the SoccerForUSPod will join us, and we'll go through stuff in his mind. We've got the European Women's Nations League, and there's apparently chaos there off the field with math and stuff. And so it's a really weird situation involving Team GB and who can qualify and what they can do and all this kind of stuff. But then there was a scary moment yesterday. And we'll get into all of that. We've got the U.S. women's national team, the two friendlies with Colombia. Then we've got Reffing Down Here with a couple of moments and some other things to get into with Bart. So it should be a full half hour at 10:30. Like I said, hopefully Dylan can come in from traffic at 10 o'clock and or as close to 10 o'clock as possible. But hour number one is News of the Morning. It's Atlanta United and Columbus Crew. Whatever's on your mind. We'll talk about it. We'll go over the matchups, go over the ref crew, and all of that. But, yeah, David, no doubt. David is not wrong. Morning, by the way. Atlanta plays in Columbus, and the weather will be terrible. Shocker. Like clockwork. I just have this vision of the one match with and at historic Crew Stadium, not when they're downtown. The one match where Mike and Jason are in the end zone on the stage and having to call it from basically the end zone. And they put up like a tent and, you know, they had to have blankets. And I mean, it was almost like, you know, an invasion of the North Pole. That's what sticks in my mind. Hopefully lower.com is more accustomed and attuned to conditions tonight. But yeah, it's supposed to be in the 40s tonight, and yeah, let it happen. You know, let Columbus Crew players freeze and figure it out. So, like I said, we'll go over whatever's on your mind when it comes to Atlanta United Columbus Crew, since it's the last match of the opening games of the MLS playoffs. How long ago did we start this? I know. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch, on our YouTube channel, and on the 280-character app. I'm covering up the QR code for hour number 2 from our friends at Lemonize. This is the QR code from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere. SoccerDownHere 15, you get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And opening kickoff this morning is something to piss off Jessica Charman. We've had Jess on the show a lot because she's an OG. And one of the things that is true to her heart is her hometown club, Reading. And we talked about it yesterday with Sheffield Wednesday, where the owner basically said, you know, y'all can pay the bills. If you don't like me and you don't like how I'm operating, y'all can pay the bills, and then we won't have to worry about it. So it was like a $2 million bill. A $2 million price tag. Sorry, if it was a $2 million bill, and I'm sure we'd all want to try to find a way to figure out to get one of those. $2 million price tag to avoid the issues currently with Sheffield United involving the tax man. Anytime you ever see anything attached to a club and the initials HMRC, that's bad. His Majesty's Royalty and Royalty and Customs. That's the tax man over in England. Plus, not paying wages. So, like $2 million. If 20,000 of you paid $100 a piece, we'd be okay. We'd pay the wage bill. We'd pay the tax man. Everything would be cool. Shocking, no one Sheffield Wednesday's at the bottom of the league that they are currently in. After getting promoted to the championship, they were like, we're in the championship. This is great. Then your owner doesn't pay the bills. And then right now you're last. And you could be on the verge of yet another transfer embargo. And it would be the third one in a row. But yeah, right now you've won one of your first 14, 8 points from safety, not looking good for Sheffield Wednesday. The reason I bring Jess into this discussion is because when Jess has been on, we've talked about her beloved Reading and all of their points deductions and things like that. So, sadly, there's an update with her Reading group. And right now, with the standings, Reading dead last. They are with a 4-point penalty because of, once again, violating FFP, financial fair play. They are 8 points adrift. 8 points adrift and 1 win. They've won 3 of their first 14, but because of the points deduction, they're at 6 points. They're at the bottom of League One, could be heading to League Two. Word came out overnight that the guy who was interested in pursuing a deal to buy Reading has now called it off. You'll remember William's story from a bunch of different things. For those of you that follow Formula One, he's the guy that was tied to Rich Energy. That's his energy drink company. Rich Energy had a deal on the Haas cars back in 2019 as their main sponsor. But the relationship only lasted half a year before Rich Energy was out the door. So William's story, wanted to buy Sunderland, couldn't do it. Wanted to buy Coventry City, couldn't do it. For whatever reason, he had agreed to terms with Dai Young. And when Jess comes on and we talk about Reading, it's always, sell before we die, DAI. It's the guy's first name. That's how it's spelled. So that's the hashtag that you always see. Sell before we DAI. He had apparently agreed to terms with Dai Yong. Now, for whatever reason, Story writes on the 280 character app, my investors and I have decided not to proceed. I wish the club and loyal fans the very best and hope they can get an owner who will invest for long-term success. Last weekend, there was a protest march to the stadium, and you couldn't find the end of it. There's a great video that came out for the support for Reading, and now William Story has backed out. Mike Ashley has been in recent talks to potentially buy the club. Once again, Mike Ashley, the guy that wants to sit there and he will buy a distressed asset. You know, he'll buy HMV and he'll sit there and, you know, maybe we'll want to put 8-track tapes and CDs for sale. Mike Ashley allegedly been in talks. Dai's been Reading's majority shareholder since May of 2017, but the club have received points deductions in each of the last 3 seasons for breaches for the EFL rules. 3-2 defeat to Portsmouth puts them at the bottom of the 3rd tier. Ashley has held discussions with a potential deal about Dai Yong. Mentioned that protest. And Reading have also faced transfer embargoes, latest applied last month with the outstanding tax bill, approached by several parties. So that's where we are. That's opening kickoff. Figured for opening kickoff this morning, Jared, I would frustrate folks overseas about their fandom and discuss idiot owners down here.
It's always fun, I guess.
We did that this morning. We did it yesterday talking about Sheffield Wednesday, where the owner basically said, you know what, if 20,000 of you fans forked over $100 a piece, we could pay the tax bill and we could pay the players and the staff their back wages. How about it? Literally, that's what dude said yesterday. I'm not interested anymore. I'm not interested anymore. You're mad at me. So if you think you can run it better, you go ahead. 20,000 of you pay £100 a piece, then we can take care of the tax man and we can take care of all the back wages. Sheffield Wednesday, I know, surprised you at the bottom of the championship, and Reading right now is at the bottom of League One, and they're both in serious trouble. But, yeah, that was your opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Jarrett, did you know that today is the last day of the first games of the first round of the full round of MLS playoffs?
I did, and it's really stupid. Here's the thing, man. Like, there's parts of this that I really don't mind. Meaning the best of 3 thing. Mm-hmm. There's parts of it I don't mind at all, man. Like where you get like after the Philly game. Yeah. One fun thing about these best of 3s, and you could get it in 2-legged ties too, but one fun thing is you get narrative. Mm-hmm. You get something happened. Oh man, this might carry over to game 2. We do this in other sports too. We do this in hockey. We do it in baseball. We do it in basketball. And we have these carryover effects, and they're kind of fun because, and I know people were very much belly aching about, the lack of goals carrying over. Mm-hmm. And that maybe they could, if you tweak this and make them like a tiebreaker in the future. Yeah. I don't hate that idea at all. However, it is kind of fun because, in like last night in the World Series, for instance, you had like a 10-0 lead in no time at all in 3 innings. And there's something like miserable yet hopeful about, oh my God, we just got absolutely pumped. But it doesn't matter tomorrow. The problem I have is just the absolute gap between games. Mm-hmm. Because I think for Philly it was like a 10-day gap. That's too much. It is. If you're going to do these best of 3 kind of things, it can't take a month. It cannot take almost a month to do it. You need to have maybe 5 days between them.
Yeah, I mean,
if you want to break this up, 10 days is, because Atlanta plays next Tuesday. That's a 6-day gap.
Yeah.
That is the edge of acceptable.
Yeah.
It is just patently absurd, the gap, and how long they have dragged out this first round. The whole concept of 3 games, like I'm on record, I'd rather do 2 games. I'd rather just do a tie.
Yeah.
For every single round. But the absolute gap between games, and then the weird structure of, well, we got 2 games this day, 1 game this day, 3 games this day. Like, it's just so weirdly put together. And yeah, some of it might be facilities. For instance, Mercedes-Benz, you're sharing that facility. Some of it might be facilities and trying to line stuff up and get stuff done. That's fine. But man, it's really frustrating that they have dragged out this first round as long as they have.
Yeah.
And that in some cases you're going to get that insane gap between games that is just not acceptable. I think the thing that pisses me off the most is the fact that after this 3-game series, we just go to one-offs. And it just feels like you've put together a carnival barker standing outside, screaming and twirling a cane and trying to get people onto the ride. And then once you get on the ride, it's just one-offs after this. And I'd rather do 2 all the way through, but then at the same time, so are you worried about congestion? Are you worried about more matches? Because you got guys playing a metric ton of matches. That's going to factor into salary cap issues down the road when guys are saying, hey, we want to get paid more because you're running us into the ground. LAFC played a ton of matches in the year of our Lord 2023, and it might not be done yet.
Yeah.
And that, I think they're north of 50 matches.
I think 53 or 54, yeah.
If they play 3 in the first round and then make it all the way through, that's going to be factoring into salary cap discussions down the road. It needs to, because you're running people into the ground. Either after this, I would love to see them figure out something, because I'm not saying do best of 3 all the way through the playoffs, because we wouldn't get done till January, especially the way they stretch it out, and you can't compress it down to weekend, midweek, weekend, because there you're getting into especially at the end of the season, guys just being gassed. Oh man, I mean, it's I'm glad it's game day for Atlanta. There are fun narrative pieces with a best of 3, and there is I know people really are annoyed, and it's a soccer thing, by the lack of aggregate goals, but there is a certain fun element of, oh, you got just absolutely dunked on for 90 minutes, doesn't matter now. That's what game. It doesn't matter in game 2. You have a fresh start. There's something fun about that appeals to the broken part of my brain that loves other sports. But yeah, man, I'm very interested to see how the second and third games play out, depending on what they do and where they do them.
Yeah.
And if they have them for the third games, and then what MLS does next year, because this last week, I think there is a metric ton of optimization you can do for this, assuming you keep it, because man, MLS hasn't kept a playoff format for more than a few months since God knows when. And it kind of sucks. It kind of sucks that that is going to be right now what they're known for, is the lack of consistency in their playoff formatting.
Well, and especially when you're dealing with a new television partner and you want to keep that television partner. and you want to keep them happy with the level of investment that they made. I mean, I could see if you went 2-leg aggregate all the way through instead of best of 3 in the first round and then one off all the way through for the rest of it. If you did twos all the way through or something all the way through, even if you had a 2-leg MLS Cup where each market got a home game, something like that. Hutch is thinking maybe less teams making the playoffs to begin with.
I am very much personally, I am very much a 7 teams make the playoff kind of person. I thought 2017 and 18 were about as perfect as you could have asked for.
Yeah.
And some of the years before that, like where it's give me 7 teams in. 6 and 7 play each other in a one-off.
Okay.
Thunderdome. And then after that,
1 and 2 the first round bye.
No first round bye.
Okay.
6 and 7 play each other Thunderdome style.
Got it.
1 plays 6, 2 plays 5,
3 plays 4. Right.
3 plays 4.
Okay.
2 legs. Okay. I have to modify it then. Well, no, 1 would get the bye, I guess.
That's what I'm saying.
You're right. 1 would get the bye. You'd figure. Well, I'd have to chart it out somewhere other than my broken mind.
Yeah. So,
but first round would be just like first round would be a Thunderdome.
Okay.
Of wild card one off, and then it's 2 legs all the way through.
Okay.
But 6 teams, basically, you would get in with, 6 teams, 7 teams, whatever it might be. And 8 teams is really just one more. It's not the end of the world. It is what it is. It's just you're dragging this format out so damn much. Like, I don't know how much milk is in that cow.
They'll just go to another farm. D. Graham is saying 16 making the playoffs. Make it simple. 1, 8, 2, 7, 3, 6, 4, 5. But when it comes to roster, then you would go, morning, Ricky. D. Graham wants to eliminate Leagues Cup, which I don't think you can do.
I mean, that would be interesting. You have Bart's attention right away.
Yes.
In a perfect world, I mean, yeah, that's an easy answer. The only problem with that is the money, man. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Because I get it. Like, it would be great. But they're not going to turn down money.
No.
This is Matthew Lasco. This is free money with the question mark suit in the mid-90s, man. They're not going to turn down the money.
Yep. And D. Graham also says, or allow extra AM and roster space for quarterfinals appearances. And I'm all for roster flexibility and, having however many you want to have, 20 plus a taxi squad or something like that, so something where if you need to do an emergency call up, you have that all the way through. Yeah. Ricky, we're talking 2 legs through the final. Ricky also says, aren't getting rid of Leagues Cup, especially after Messi took it over. Emilio, I'm sure there's a way to do the math to have less teams. Doing aggregates to create equals inventory for this year.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, you have to factor in that like there's more and more and more and more games.
Yeah.
Do you go to one-offs through the playoffs just to minimize the wear and tear on the human body? Because I love having 2 legs all the way through. There's a lot of games on the body.
Yep.
And I think this is one where when CBA negotiations come back up, that it's going to be a discussion between the players union and the league of, hey, look, you've added Leagues Cup. You've tinkered with playoffs every single year. We got to raise the floor because we're playing more games. Mm-hmm. We're playing more high-profile games. You've got the Apple deal. We got to talk about this schedule and just the wear and tear on the body because the preseason, you're either going to condense this thing so much that we're not going to be 100% for it, or it's going to get stretched so long that our preseason is basically non-existent. It basically becomes the NASCAR preseason of the late 90s and the NASCAR like off season of the late 90s, if y'all remember that, because it was when NASCAR was actually, when Bill France wasn't like sniffing magic markers. They ended the series every year in Atlanta. In November.
Yep.
And then Daytona 500 was in early mid-February.
Yeah, and you had speed weeks. 2 weeks ahead of that, like the beginning of
You had the Gatorade 125s before you had man, like when NASCAR was at its peak, man, you had like Daytona, you're right, speed weeks, because you had like qualifying, you had the Gatorade 125s
on a Thursday afternoon.
Oh man, everybody would put wild paint schemes on their car. And go 125 miles on Daytona, which is basically like taking 70 laps because Daytona's huge. But yeah, then you had like a 2-month break, really, 2 to 3 months. Like that's what you're going to be looking at. It's going to be interesting to see how they discuss this going forward, because you're going to condense down. You're going to have to either condense the games, or you're going to have to condense the off season, as you're just doing so much. But ultimately, y'all talked about on the Twitch pitch, expand the money, pay them, not just paying the players more, but giving them more of a budget to have a deeper roster so that you can efficiently rotate, because anybody can rotate.
Yes.
Can you rotate and keep up the quality, or at least not have as just aggressive of a drop in quality? Therein lies the question.
Yep. Hutch, Michael Head is like, no way over 60% of the teams should make the playoffs, plus the dumb Leagues Cup. National Hockey League, I think, is at 50-50 or 16-30, something like that. Hutch wants to bring back the mimeograph. That's how far back he wants to go into all this discussion. And then Michael's like, can't wait to see what even dumber playoff schedule they'll announce in February, a week before the season starts. And I think that was part of it too. It's
going to be interesting to see, because that's if they wait till the beginning of the season, like this is going to be one of those things that's going to make things tense potentially between the players union and the league next time CBAs come up. Like, hey, next time you have to announce it before 5 days before the start of the season.
It's like, hey, bruh.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It almost feels like you tried to Americanize the playoffs. I'm interested because I do want to see what happens in this New England, Philadelphia. You have my attention with New England and Philly because they hate each other. Anyone who plays 3 games against Philadelphia is almost guaranteeing a fight, especially with the Kai Wagner accusations, which we haven't heard anything more about.
No, he is at practice, by the way.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about this, and we've talked about this before. When it is kind of up in the air and the coach didn't hear it, and it's just an accusation, if the coach didn't hear it, the coach is going to back their player because you will cripple that locker room.
Right.
With, well, they said you did it, so now you're, suspended from team activities. If the player said he didn't do it, the coach has to go with his player until proven otherwise,
right,
for the sake of the locker room.
Yeah.
And it's really tough to watch from the outside, because when this has become a thing, like a really annoying thing that MLS has had happen at least 3 times this year now. It's like that trigger finger to just like keep them away from the team. But it's not always that simple.
Yep.
And the process will play out. Now, let's see if he plays game 2. Let's see how quickly they can do this investigation, because MLS ain't known for their swiftness.
No.
Because if the accusation, first of all, I want, for you, those of you that don't know, the accusation is that he used a slur towards Bobby Wood.
In German,
to a guy who spent 10 years in Germany. Part of my brain kind of hopes that like that he didn't know Bobby spoke German, which
Yeah,
is absurd. He has to know. He can't be that dumb. He had to know Bobby spoke German.
I'm thinking that he thought, like I said, I have no basis in any of
Or
this.
he said it just to Bobby with the idea of like, no one else is going to understand this when we start firing off in German. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know the full story.
No,
But hey, man, you got a storyline for game 2. Aside from the fact that game turned into a fracas.
that's a word.
It,
That's a word.
Yeah, man. Well, again, if you ask someone to potentially play 3 games in a row with Philadelphia, it's kind of like the opening scene to the show Shoresy, where they talk about the no-show, and there's just 4 teams. It's like 4 teams in Northern Ontario. I'm like, it's 4 teams. They play each other for 20 games. Those guys must hate each other. They must be ready to kill each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get locked in a cage with Philadelphia for 3 games, and that's the end result. A team is going to want to kill them.
Yes.
And Philadelphia is going to poke the bear to try and get that team out of their own lane so that they're not efficient.
Absolutely. What do you think about tonight with Atlanta and Columbus?
Because part of my brain has gone full petty on this, in the sense that for so long I have watched Atlanta United play games where they carry the narrative for the game, and then teams just react, or teams sit back and make Atlanta do everything. That doesn't happen with Columbus. It's actually beautiful. Columbus wants to control the game. They want to control you, and I enjoy even in a game where Columbus may very well push you around. I thoroughly enjoy that over like watching Atlanta try and like as if it was, as if it was a great wrestler dragging Goldberg through a match. I hate when Atlanta is that good, is like the for modern day, the Dolph Ziggler here,
Yes.
where you've put someone who's incredibly technically good, great worker, can get a good match out of almost anybody, and then dragging the Goldbergs of the league through the matches. It's much more fun when you have like Columbus, who might very well drag you through the match because they want to control it and you want to control it, and you're going to go fighting for it back and forth. I'd much rather have that. Part of my petty ass brain wants Atlanta to go in there and just make Columbus drag them through this match, because you don't have Thiago. It sounds like everyone else is good to go.
Yeah.
Make them drag you through this match and see how ugly you can make it. Like, oh, you want me to? If you've ever moved a toddler who's dead weight, I'm going to make you drag me through this. I'm going to make you drag my dead weight through this.
Like the dog that doesn't want to go for a walk and just lays on the concrete.
Yeah. I would love to see them do that. Because if you can do that and somehow get out of there with a win, it would be very funny, because then you come back to Mercedes-Benz with a chance to block them out of the playoffs. Ultimately, I don't know how they line this up.
The midfield, I think, is the question. And is
Sejdic?
Is it Sejdic? Is it Jay Fortune? Is it
and Jay's not really a 10 for me, but like you could do Sejdic, you could do Wolf. You could box that midfield if you wanted to, and have Zetu and Muyamba, and then like have you could have Sejdic or Wolf, however you want to put it together, and basically operate with like 2 8/10s and fly through the box and just try and like bully them through the middle of the field. But they will try and play through you and around you, and they're capable of it. Darlington Nagbe is not the player he was in 2018. I don't know who needs to hear that.
Yeah, everybody.
He can still do it in spurts. He just can't do it. He's not going to do it for 90 minutes game in and game out. He's going to have games where it's just not there. And that's okay because Darlington is, he is over the pinnacle of his career, going down the backside of his career. And that's okay because guess what? He has insanely talented players around him who take that pressure off of him. And that's beautiful.
Yeah.
But like, do you try and bully through that? Basically try and push everything to the outside. Yeah, we'll see, man.
You're looking at some of the folks are saying 4-4-2. David wants to start TRE in a 4-4-2. Abby's reminding us that it is currently colder here at SDHHQ than it is in Columbus. Expected 38 at kickoff. D. Graham wants to have Saba to the 10. Mosqueda goes out wide. My guess is that you'll probably.
It's a really interesting theory, man. I don't know how comfortable Saba is playing the 10, but boy can pass the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And Mosqueda has, even if he didn't do that, like Mosqueda, would you be upset if you started Mosqueda anyway, even if Saba wasn't the 10? And then you did what you've done in the past, which is, hey, it's the 65th minute. Mm-hmm. Saba, fetch.
Yeah, well, and I mean, if you did that on the right-hand side, it would look like the attacking right for Atlanta. It would be some idea of, say, Saba or Mosqueda going up against Zawadzki and then Sheberko down the left-hand side. I like that matchup. I like what Atlanta could do down the right-hand side against the left, getting past, looking at the lineup that was the 1-1 draw in Mercedes-Benz, where Miles gets the header at 90+7 for the equalizer. Right-hand side, Saba and Hasechu going down against the defensive left of Zawadzki, Aiden Morris drifting over, Alexandru Matan, and Yevhen Sheberko. I'd take that matchup. I like that idea of the advantage going there. Of course, with Crew, you're talking about Cucho, you're talking about Aiden Morris, you're talking about Diego Rossi. That's the defense. That's where the defense is going to have to step up, as they did in only giving up the one goal at Mercedes-Benz, and that happened 65 minutes into the match. So I like the right-hand side of Atlanta United against the left-hand side of Crew, but obviously the attack for Crew going up against Wiley, Abram, Miles, Muyumba, that's what you're looking at if you're Atlanta United defensively. Then the question is it Shande Silva and Gigi? Is it Hasechu? Muyumba, we know he'll be a part of the equation, but you're trying to figure out that midfield attack, and Hasechu would be more of a point guard in this situation than anything else. At least that's how I'm interpreting it. But I like the right-hand side attack of Atlanta against the left-hand side defense of Crew.
Yeah, and we'll see how they do it, because like Columbus did such a good job last time of kind of throwing you a curveball and controlling the game, and you had to get your legs under you. It was tough.
Mm-hmm.
Wilfred Nazi is very good at his job, despite the fact that I don't think he should have been in the top 3 in Coach of the Year.
Ben Olsen.
That's just me. Yeah, Ben Olsen, man. The Ben Olsen disrespect, I guess, is going to continue forever. But whatever. And it's not a slight on Nazi. Like, I really like Nazi as a head coach. But it's that Ben Olsen has taken what is theoretically a sleeping giant in Houston professional soccer and made them fun, and won at least one piece of hardware with them already.
Yeah.
By beating Miami's brains in. It's gonna be tricky. Like, and anything, it's gonna be tough, but anything worth doing is, right?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's. No, I think you're there. I think you're spot on. But no, I just, if you look at the lineups, let's just look at all of the lineups from the 1-1 draw. this is obviously with Thiago, but, obviously we take Thiago out of the mix. Gigi, Xande Silva, Thiago, Saba, Josechu, Muyumba with a back four of Wiley, Abram, Miles, and Brooks Lennon with Brad in net. Columbus had Schulte in net, left to right, Shaberka, Rudy Camacho, Steven Moreira. I think that can be had. Midfield, Zawadzki, Aiden Morris, Driver, and Julian Gressel. And then up top, it was Matan, Rossi, and Cucho Hernandez.
Can I tell you where I think they can really be had more so than positionally?
Yeah.
It's not so much positionally for me. It's a timing issue. This is a team that gives up a lot of late goals.
Yeah.
This is a team that gives up a lot of late goals and likes to, and against a team that likes to score a lot of late goals in Atlanta. If it's a 1-goal game, if you can keep it to a 1-goal game until like the 75th or 80th minute,
yep,
I think you make them sweat. If you can just keep it there, if you're winning, even better. But even if you're down a goal in the 80th minute, you have them where you would like them.
Yep.
Because it's a team that has, as much or more so than Atlanta, really given away games late in 2023.
Yeah.
And in this format, dude, that is crippling.
Mm-hmm.
Because if let's say Columbus is up 2-1 or 1-0, if Atlanta gets a goal in the 89th, 91st minute, whatever it may be,
yeah,
what do you have to immediately like get over that for yourself and go line up and take PKs.
Yeah.
For me, it is their biggest heel. Their biggest Achilles heel is the fact that they just have at times this year consistently given away games.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if you can keep it within an arm's length, you can get this fight to the 10th round and the scorecard is not overwhelming, and come out in the 10th round and start connecting on a couple combinations.
Well, and I think that might be universally true in this playoff structure, because of if you are, if you're the team that wants to hang around, you get somebody to hang around. The onus is on that higher seed to sit there and get everything finished off. And so the pressure is more on that higher seed, especially out of the blocks at home in that first match. So, no, I think that you're spot on, especially how things are laid out. If it was home and home, 2 legs, aggregate, then obviously the pressure is in that second match as well. But I think that out of the blocks in these best of threes, I think that if you hang around enough against a team that that has shown that it is not going to be there, like I said, and we can go back once again. We can go back to the 1-1 draw at Mercedes-Benz when Atlanta United was chasing the equalizer. That last 20 minutes plus the 7. The match was decidedly Atlanta United's. It did take him obviously until 90 plus 7 to get that equalizer, but Atlanta United chasing the game after that goal by Cucho with 25 to go. It was Atlanta United's, man. And Columbus couldn't finish it out. They could not finish it out, and they didn't finish it out. You end up with that 1-1 draw. No, and I think that you're spot on in that idea that if you hang around, Columbus seems to be content with a lead late to want to try to see it out, but for whatever reason, they don't see it out more often than not. And I'm trying to chase down that stat for Crew.
Yeah, I mean, the onus is on them. Like I said, you don't have Thiago. You're asking for Amar Stages to put together one of those games that he's capable of having. It's not consistent, but he's capable of doing it. He's a very smart player, and I think you might put him in a situation in this game to say, hey, man, get out there, start this game, insanely high IQ player and tell him, like, hey, get out there, start this game. We're going to figure out what they're going to do in the flow of the game, and we're going to need to adjust on the fly. And you ask him to be part of that because he's capable of it.
Yeah, and so I think that's what you're staring at with Atlanta United. I am in the game notes right now for Crew, and for how, like, when you're looking for a game note and you sit there, it's like, well, if they score first, if the other team scores first, if they score second, those kinds of things. I've yet to find that game note when it comes to Columbus Crew, and try to sit here and go, yes, when Crew's okay, here we go. All right, so Crew MLS goals by interval. They're fairly even when it comes to their scoring, and they broke it down into 15-minute elements. But goals allowed, they don't allow goals early. 2 goals in the first 15. They've allowed 5 goals in minutes 16 through 30 and 31 to halftime. When Columbus is their most susceptible, minutes 46 through 60 and 75 to 90 plus, they've given up 27 of their 45 goals this year, either immediately after halftime or in the last 15 minutes of a match, plus the 90 minutes plus. 27 of the 45 goals they've conceded have either come out right after the locker room, or they have come out as they're trying to close out a game. So I think that's what you're staring at if you are, a fan of Atlanta United. Situation scoring the first goal. If they allow the first goal, Crew are 1-4-4. They score the first one, they're 14-4-5, and that makes sense. Leading at the half, if they're trailing at the half, they're 0-4-1. Leading at the half, they're 12-3-2. Once again, that makes sense. Scoring by half, they've only allowed 12 first-half goals all season. They've scored 35. But they are -1. They've allowed 31 and scored 30 in the second half. But minutes 46 through 60 and 76 to 90 plus, 27 of their 45 allowed goals have come in those 2 windows.
Yeah. I mean, it's like they take a minute to get going out of halftime, which is fine. But the end of the game, I think, is where you can get them, because it's not just, you want to like rescue something late, but man, you're going to shootout after that if it gets to it.
Yeah.
And you got to get in the right mindset. And if you can get a team like that and, snatch it really late from them, they got to immediately compartmentalize the fact that, oh my God, we had the win and then we didn't.
Yep.
And now we have to go into a shootout. And that's what you want if you're in that situation, is to immediately put them into a state of, well, dang.
Yep.
And then ask them to get up for a shootout.
And
then, you just, shootouts are annoying, especially when your team is in them, because especially when you are the favorite, and especially when you're playing at home.
Yeah.
And we'll say the same thing next Tuesday of, when it comes down to, especially when it comes down to next Tuesday for Atlanta, depending on how this game goes tomorrow, it might be a chance to close it out or a chance to avoid elimination. One of the two.
And Schulte, on the record this year, is 0-for-2 in penalty kick situations. Has not saved a PK this year. But once again, that's to be a Tim Melia or a Nick Raimondo is a very special.
It's not a common thing.
So Schulte 0-for-2 this year when it comes to PK situations.
Yeah, Brad is. I don't know that Brad's ever been a great PK guy.
Yeah.
But you're just gonna figure it out, man. Like it's gonna be really annoying to watch. But you were gonna have that same conversation on the shoe is gonna be on the other foot next week of, hey, you're at home and Somebody's coming into your house, and you're going to have to hold serve. And the trick is, though, Columbus isn't going to come into your house and play scared.
No.
They're not going to come into your house and play defensive. They're going to try and dominate the game. Like I said, I would much rather see a game like that, even if it means there are going to be stretches with that game where Atlanta's going to get pushed around. God, it's so much better than watching like one team have to carry the entire load of the game for 90 minutes minus a couple of weird counters.
Yeah. Kickoff time, I think, is 7:55 tonight. It's not 7. It's because it's on FS1. They're going to want the super hyper mega pregame show, so it's, I think, a 7:55 start tonight for the match on FS1, and it's listed as being on FS1 and FS2, which I find interesting, if not nay intriguing. So yeah, right now listed it on the free side of Apple TV, FS1 and FS2. But I've seen 7:55 kick when it comes to this match tonight. So across the board, FS1, FS2 on the free side of Apple TV. Jordan, to answer your question, your crew tonight is Lucas Zapala's the man in the middle. We'll go over his numbers in a bit. Your ARs, Adam Winkowski and Jason White. Philip Dujic is your fourth. Soren Stoichka is your VAR. TJ Zablocki is your AVAR. And when it comes to referee stats, let's see what Lucas Zapala has done this season as being a man in the middle. 25 matches, 601 times he has blown the whistle. 600 times he has blown the whistle. So what is, for those of you who have a calculator in front of you, 25, was that 24 fouls per match from Lucas Zapala on average? And Zapala is the highest. He has given the most. He's not the highest average, but he has given the most yellow cards in Major League Soccer this season. 25 matches, 122 yellow cards, an average of 4.88 per game. That is not the highest per game average, but that is the most yellows because he has reffed 25 matches in the center compared to other individuals who might be high teens, low 20s. But Lucas Zapala, 25 matches in the middle, averages 24 foul calls a match, 4.88 yellows per match. 4.88 puts him below Victor Rivas, not a surprise, below Chris Penso, below Izmir Pekmic, below Guido Gonzalez Jr. So he is fifth in yellows per game. Looked like having, and I believe Lucas Zapala he and Alex Chilowitz reffed the most games this year at 25. So, reffed the most matches this year, fifth in average of yellow cards per match at 4.88, has given the most yellow cards in number this year, 24 fouls per match. That's what you're staring at when it comes to Lucas Zapala as the man in the middle, Jarrett, coming into tonight.
I don't expect it to be like, this isn't like you're playing Philadelphia. This isn't like you're playing Red Bulls. I don't expect it to be crazy or cagey or chaotic, right, which means it probably will be because I said that. But I don't expect it to be that. So I'm not as worried about that. I'm not as worried about like, some weird call turning the entire game on its head.
Yeah.
Just you go out there and you don't worry about it and you play your game.
Yeah. I know that you will effort to join us at least for the final half hour of the show. And that's Bart will join us to talk reffing down here, national team stuff, and anything else that comes on his mind for reffing down here. Maybe we can talk about magic words and punches that don't get cards. I think probably we will go down that road. Hopefully you'll be with us in the second hour of the show.
We will try.
That's Jarrett. And I'd love to know, let's see, stats, assignments. Yeah, that's the thing. We need to, I'm on the pro website and I'm trying to find out, like, I've got the stats for Zapala, but I don't have the official I don't have the official like breakdown of matches that he performed in this year. So, but yes, it should be under normal circumstances if you are doing a Philadelphia match, it should be 7 or 8. But so, and by the way, Zapala only had 6 matches where he was in the middle last year. 22 this in 25 matches in the middle. And the busiest man in show business in the Northeast, he has made it. And we welcome back in Dylan for hour number 2 to get hour number 2 kicked off. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Bit tired. Good though.
How was the traffic to make sure that folks got to where they were supposed to go this morning?
Oh yeah, no, my wife is off this week, so I just brushed hair and sent her on her way. So.
Okay, excellent. All right, so we have now officially made it to the last matchup of match day ones in the playoffs here for 2023. I feel like I should be applying for Social Security. I do have a birthday coming up. It's in June. I thought that we might not make it in time. We have finally made it to the end of match day ones, sir, in the playoffs. Huzzahs and hoorays across the board.
And for me, at least, it's the one that I've been looking forward to the most.
And why, sir? Why, pray tell, are you looking forward to this one the most? Where the weather is supposed to be in the 40s, and everyone's going to be bundled up, and it will be an interesting. It will be an interesting test case in what folks can stand and how much they can stand when it comes to weather tonight.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I'm in the same boat tonight. I've got a championship doubleheader soccer broadcasts I'm doing. I'll be in a press box, but I'll feel for those on the field, but mostly in the stands. Those parents, and family members. It'll be a rough one for them, no doubt. But yeah, we have the same. It's like 40s low. Probably by the time these matches kick off tonight, like in the high 30s. So not the best weather. But no, listen. I am team chaos.
There you go, brother.
Team goal scoring, and this should be the series for that. I put a should instead of will because. Then all of a sudden it's going to be 0-0 and nothing's going to happen. But I hope not. I think this could be like the MLS after dark.
Really?
In round 1, I think so.
I
hope so.
So just because the sun sets, are you officially calling it MLS after dark? Or is that?
No, I just think with neither team particularly super interested in defending, with a lot of players in their mix who can score goals, teams who love to score goals, who have shown the ability to score goals. So I think all of those things hopefully lend itself to a high scoring, entertaining, full 3-game series.
And how many of these are you anticipating going the full 3? How many of these are blowout city, and how many of these are you anticipating going the full 3?
Let's see. I didn't. I saw the regular season, or the most of the regular season versions of both FC Cincinnati and Red Bull. So I don't know if that's going to go 3. I see this one going 3.
Yeah.
I hope to see LA Vancouver, although that was a big scoreline on the first one.
Take the over, brother.
I don't see Seattle going 3.
Yeah.
Who am I missing?
Sporting.
I think Sporting. That's super interesting. I want it to go 3. I want to will that one to 3 games if I can.
I don't know if that one is, though.
I agree with you. I think I don't know. I almost feel like the St. Louis that you've questioned all year has shown up. Like the
Well,
one,
that's very Red Bullsy of them.
yeah, that's true. That's very true. So I would like it to, because I love watching like the birth of this rivalry. But I don't. I'm with you as well. I don't know if it does. I think Sporting probably finds a way there to pull it out.
When it comes to, since we're discussing what is it, the I-59 rivalry, it just reminds me of Cardinals and Royals when they were in the World Series.
Mm.
When we're discussing this one, I mean, you were getting Berkey from distance, and that seemed to, you get the first one, and then you sit there and you see something, and you open that door, and I don't know if it was just the group of all caps being in the playoffs for the first time. It's like, oh, we did really well in the regular season, and this is a different animal. And it might be something where Peter Vermes was like, okay, I see something, and now City might have to adjust and play against type, but I don't know if that's in their DNA, and that's why I think that being down a goal is a problem, being down a game is a problem, and that's why this might be 2 and done.
No, I agree. I think of all of the game one performances that we've seen so far, that you'd have to say has been the most impressive one. Just to do what they did. I think the one that I missed was two that I missed. I didn't talk about Salt Lake, Houston.
That one's going 3.
I think so. And I think Orlando's probably wrapping that up in 2.
Yeah.
As well. So
yeah. So
I feel like though for MLS, sorry, John, I feel like for this to work for MLS, you need some of these to go 3, right? Like it's you have this whole new, hey, it's our new format. It's a best of 3 series. It's going to be great. And then if teams wrap it up in 2, you're like, oh, now we have a huge break.
Well, but then does that not lend itself to the conversation that we were having at points in hour number 1? Should it just not be 2 legs all the way through, possibly even including MLS Cup, instead of best of 3, you're done in 2, best of 3, you're done in 2, you're waiting, you're killing time, all of that kind of stuff. And
I mean, you know how I feel. I'm a 2-leg aggregate guy through and through.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, except for the final, I want to see that final just be that one-off match, like the Champions League final and World Cup. So just make that one event, one game, but everything else, make that two legs for sure.
Yeah, and we are also getting into the discussion about Coach of the Year. We broke out the senior yearbook last week. Senior superlatives, all those kinds of things.
Not including postseason.
Not including postseason. No, not including postseason. But I still think that Ben Olsen, and Jarrett was probably the flag bearer for this, that Ben Olsen should have been top 3 when it comes to Coach of the Year.
I agree. I think I had him 2.
So who was 1 for you?
I mean, record-breaking season, expansion season.
So what was Carnell in all caps for you?
Yeah, correct.
All caps SC.
Yes.
And because everybody was sitting there going, well, for Nancy and what have you, but like Nancy had tools going in, and you saw what Nancy had to have on his roster there in Columbus, but with Ben Olsen playing Benny ball and working their way through, getting a title, and I think that
getting the Herrera buy-in too.
Yes, and you get to see what Ache can be with this buy-in with Houston. And so, we are team Ben Olsen snub here when it comes to Coach of the Year. Who were some of your others that were a part of the awards ceremonies, like at the Dylan Butler Downtown Athletic Club? when you have the awards, did someone that you voted for not get the award that you think they should have?
To be honest, I didn't even. To be fair, I didn't even look at the finalists. I've been so busy.
Good for you.
I've had I've spoken to 16 different coaches over the past week.
There you go. It's championship week. That's what it's all about.
Preparing for soccer games.
It all blends together.
I think today is match 10 for me.
78
in the past little more than a week.
All right, so fine. Well, so all right,
but throw them my way, and I'll.
Yeah. All right. So screw everybody else. Here's what happened when everybody wandered in from Major League Soccer into the Dillon Butler Downtown Athletic Club. Everybody's sitting there at the table at the chairs. You're sitting there. You're emceeing the whole thing. Who's your MVP, Lucho?
Yeah, 100%.
Best newcomer.
Almada. No, not Almada. Almada's young player.
Okay, so young player's Almada. Who's your best newcomer?
Best newcomer.
Is it Gigi? Yakamakis?
Yes, I did. I think I did have him. Yes.
Okay. So let's see. You mentioned coach.
Or will it be Busquets?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the thing. Would you have included Messi in the ballot for an MVP newcomer, et cetera, et cetera?
No. I think it would just throw the whole thing into just like they didn't even play the whole season.
It's like voting Sergei Makarov as best newcomer when he came into the National Hockey League at the age of 33.
Well, not just that, but like let's say he only played the final. He came in March. Of the season, like huge in a hockey season, right? Like yes, they had a huge impact. I would argue though, Busquets had a larger impact on the field because he was there every game, right? Than Messi. I was going to say Alba too. Like Alba maybe even had a bigger impact, but still, all three of those guys arrived in the summer, right? So, the goals scored for Yakamakis versus minutes played is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Had he been healthy, he walks away with the Golden Boot, not even a question.
And I know a lot of folks here in Atlanta and then the Atlanta United footprint are looking forward to an off season. Whenever this season ends, they're looking at that full season of training with Saba and Gigi and Shande Silva and everyone that was brought in and who else might be brought in the window. I know that a lot of folks are looking forward to a healthy Gigi as a part of 24 as well. Best keeper.
Best goalkeeper. I gave it to Berkey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Best defender.
Best defender. I went Parker.
Okay. Because full disclosure, I went Parker as well.
Yeah.
All right. So now, since we
Don't tell me Oscar.
No, yeah, exactly. No. Since we are here in the lobby of the Dillon Butler Downtown Athletic Club, is there an award that you would give that is not a standard award? Whether it's best hair, best wardrobe, best whatever, is there an off-the-wall award from your coverage? And we can table this until the end of the segment to give you time to think about it. Is there an off? I
don't know if it would be a player. I would like, and I don't know the winner, to be fair, because it could be discussed. How about best either match day atmosphere or experience? Something of that sort.
Okay.
You can go 70,000 strong at Atlanta. You can go St. Louis. You can go Cincinnati, right? Like what LAFC, right? Like when they're buzzing, the 30 to 52 are going. Could be best supporter section. Maybe that could be another one, right? Like, I'd have to think about it though, like in terms of a winner.
Okay. Yeah, like best.
I'm a big 32-52 fan. Like I feel like every time And a lot of times when working, I just have the match almost like in the background, like I'm watching, but I'm not watching. And just the constant, the singing and the songs and um, the sort of heartbeat of what they bring, is one of my favorites for sure.
Yes. Yeah, well, we're both Florida State grads. I had to drop that in there. All right. So,
I am Team Bretos. I like Max Bretos.
and I'm right there with you. I like Max and Dunny.
I know he's an acquired taste, but I like him.
Definitely an acquired taste. If somebody crashes out of round one, and like I said, it could be a favorite or it could be a dog. If somebody crashes out in 2, could there still be any coaching changes, you think, with any of the teams that made the playoffs?
Could there still be coaching changes?
Would there be a level of impatience involving somebody? Say Nashville comes back and with Oscar Pareja's contract situation, it gives Orlando an excuse to Orlando something up.
Yeah, I mean that could be like that might be the best possibility. I don't know how Troy is saying, like, is his footing solid? But other than that, I don't. I mean, look, you've got Nancy. He's fine. Obviously, Gonzo's fine. I think Mastroianni, Olsen, they're fine. Sartini just got a new deal.
Mm-hmm.
Cherundolo is for me, like Cherundolo was like a super interesting one when they were struggling, because you wondered how much patience there'd be there. But I don't also see them crashing out of the first round. So,
right.
Vermees, I think, is fine. Carnell is fine.
What do you do in New England?
I don't know.
One of our, Shooter, one of our fans was saying that Clint was PAing all over himself. In match day 1. And I know that we'll keep talking Philadelphia, New England here in a second, but what do you do in New England? And this is one thing.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. That was like that series started 5 weeks ago, didn't it?
Yeah, it started back in August.
Forgot about that one. Yeah, I think Philly, that's probably a 2 and done.
Yeah.
Especially with Heel hurt.
Yeah, and I know we'll have Bart on after you, as we traditionally do here on Wednesdays, to discuss.
That's the only negative, John, I feel like, of this extended first round. It's like you almost forget it. Like, oh yeah, they were playing. I forgot about those guys.
And
what is it, Wednesday now? And we started on Saturday, right?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that we're sitting there going, oh yeah, all the way back, middle of last week when things got started. But yeah, I mean, you look at the situation where that contact does not even garner a card. At times I feel like Country Joe West is the center ref when it comes to Major League Soccer. So that injury is going to be big for New England. It didn't get a card in the match day situation there. Kai Wagner, and we talked about it a little bit. Like I said, we don't know a lot. There's a lot we don't know, to rephrase and do this better grammatically, about the Kai Wagner situation. We don't know. We talked about it. We know the information that's out there. We don't have any more details. Wagner is practicing. That much we know. New England and Philly, is this going to be a street fight, or is this going to be over in 2? Is New England going to drag Philly down with them with the home match at Gillette and turn it into a 3, or is this just going to be a street fight, and if it's 2, it's 2?
It will be a street fight, which is fine with Philly. But I do think it ends in 2.
Okay.
Like, it's an ugly one with, 12 cards, maybe a couple endings off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still think Philly, I just think New England, after everything that happened, I think they would just spiraling. They were that fire that just you couldn't put out, and it's still kind of smoldering, and you just sort of let it be, and it's done.
Okay, so then, all right, let me ask you this. What about, and this was brought up by D. Graham, what about Gary Smith in Nashville? Is Gary done if they end up fading out in 2?
I hope not, because we'll lose that accent.
I'll just bring him back periodically. Time to discuss what's going on in Major League Soccer. It's Gary Smith's time. It's the Gary Smith segment with not Gary Smith.
I think it's a good question. I think they've built up enough equity with what they've been able to do their first few years that I think he's earned that right. Even if they do crush out in this first round,
yeah.
But I think there needs to be questions about who's making these decisions and the decisions they're making, right? Like, you hit the home run with Hani, obviously, right?
And then you brought in Sam.
And you struck out with whoever you want to try to have play next to him. Maybe just have Hani make a decision. Like, this is who I've played with before. This is who I want to play with. Bring him in, please.
Don't do that when I'm taking a sip of a beverage, sir. But yeah, I mean, honestly, we had Lucas Panzica, the radio play-by-play guy, on Monday morning, and it was discussing missed opportunities. I mean, you had Surge in the first half with the absolute sitter, which would have changed the game state in that series. I mean, immediately it would have been flipped on its head. And then Orlando scores. And then with the Cartagena bomb that he hits from like 30. And then in the second half, Bunbury has his chance. That doesn't turn into an equalizer. And so Nashville obviously is down 1-0 in that series. But it's like you spend all this money on Surridge. And after the, Leagues Cup hot start that Surridge had, he has just been.
He's been what we thought he was when they signed him. You're like, what? Really? That's your answer?
Yeah, you spent a lot of money to bring in a dude from Nottingham Forest that Steve Cooper was like, yep. Yeah, you can have him, but if you want to give me, $8 million, you go right ahead. And Nottingham Forest decided not to invest in another striker with that $8 million. I don't know what they invested in with that $8 million, but I mean, it's I mean, you look at this and literally, it's like you're forgetting what the heck happened in the early parts of the opening rounds of these match day ones.
Yeah, and it's weird, right? Because like you and I are big NHL Stanley Cup playoff fans, and I feel like that's an every night thing, right?
Every night's important to somebody.
But I think the difference there is like it's not just like one match, one time. Like you do have multiple matches, games being played in the Stanley Cup playoffs at the same time. So like you could watch Boston Montreal, or you could watch Devils Rangers, and then you have a West Coast game as well, and like maybe that's what should have happened here, and shorten the amount of days, but have more matches on those days. I don't know.
No, and I think that's the key in all of this. I think that it's just trying to figure out how to best gauge it and have it be meaningful every single night, because you
don't want to compete against yourself.
No,
but at the same time, like it's been a long round one, match one.
Yeah, it has, and I think probably somewhere we should have somebody, and I'll commission it, to have someone sit there and say, okay, match day 1 took however long it took, match day 2 took however long it took, and I get it from the TV perspective.
Sure,
I will yell this from the mountaintop. I get it from the television perspective of this new television series that you're rolling out here on Apple that just happens to be in an episodic form involving everything with Major League Soccer. I get it. It's like shrinkage. It's like Ted Lasso. You're trying to roll it out and sit there, and it's like, okay, we got a new episode tonight. We've got 2 new episodes tonight. Hey, we got 3 new episodes here on the weekend, and binge watch. I get it. But when you have all of that stuff on the weekend, and then you have a night where you don't have a game last night, that momentum that you might have thought you had, I don't know, maybe you didn't want to compete against Monday Night Football, FOOTBAL. I don't know. But there are just nights where if you're going to have this, like we talk about with the National Hockey League, every night means something to somebody. You don't take a night off unless a series is over. These series are just beginning, and you've got gaps in your schedule. I mean, come on, man. So yeah, it is you want the best for the league, especially with a new partner and with all of these new bells and whistles that they're bringing into play and all this approach that you're seeing with what's going on. But yeah, there are some holes here in the programming grid. Where's Brandon Tartikoff? That's your Google search for today, kid. We need Tartikoff or Lauren Michaels to come in here and figure out what's going on.
Good shout there.
That's what I thought. Like I said, those of us with a certain demo can figure out what's going on. So you mentioned what's going on with the high schools. What else is going on with you right now? It is all high schools all the time with Dylan Butler and Varsity Media on the YouTube.
Yeah, I had, and again, you appreciate this. I had not last night or I think the night before, but I had a stretch of like 3 or 4 nights where it was 2 a.m. every night because it was 4 charts. Now it was soccer charts, which is different, right? Like, you've got your 11, obviously. And despite having unlimited subs, these teams have been only kind of going 3-4 deep on their depth chart, right? So almost like an MLS type match where only these players will come in. But it's at least 30-minute calls with each of these coaches, and like I said, there were 16 different coaches, 4 different classifications. I did the semifinals of all of them, but now you're like, you know what? Now we have the finals, so it's a 5-minute follow-up conversation with these coaches. You already have most of the charts. You're just changing a couple of, the record, the last match, the last time these 2 teams played. What are the new keys for this match? Like things like that. So, what's that?
No, just I'm right there with you. I'm getting.
Yeah,
there.
I'm seeing the light now at the end of the tunnel.
It's not an oncoming train, is
it? It might be. It might be those football playoffs that are coming next week, where I have football doubleheaders are a little bit, a little different than soccer doubleheaders for sure.
No doubt. All right, Tartikoff and Rich Ransom coming in from Philly. He says Tartikoff helped the Saved by the Bell kids make a commercial about drugs.
That's right.
The more you know, and I feel like I need.
It's funny. I never, and it was probably part of their brilliance. At a young age, watching all these shows, I didn't know that there were messages.
I didn't either.
I'm just watching Different Strokes because it's Different Strokes.
Yeah, and I'm
watching Family Ties because Michael P. Keaton's out there doing his thing.
Yes, and you're sitting there, and it's like, and Elizabeth Berkley, I'm so excited, and I don't know.
I'm so scared.
I'm so scared. Jesse's so scared. So that's where we are.
Bayside High.
Yes, at Dylan_Butler, Bayside High, and it's always great to catch up with Mr. Beldings. We'll catch up with you next week, my friend. We'll continue talking about this here sport and more stuff.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, that's Dylan. So we do the hot tag. Dylan goes out. Bart comes in. And you can take your sip from your Atlanta United mug. That's perfectly fine.
I know you just quoted another quote from this actor, but it's Versace is my quote from Elizabeth this morning.
Exactly.
Wonderful movie, Showgirls.
Absolutely. And Gina Gershon should have won every award known to mankind for that particular movie. Kyle MacLachlan a close second. So,
fantastic movie.
And Rich Ransom is doing the Lord's work and posting YouTube links about some of the best.
Oh, I already see Emilio talking about referees today. Great.
Yeah, well,
fantastic.
Yeah, well, and I know that we are here discussing reffing down here. Oh, Emilio, you wanted the numbers, and I have them, much like Columbus, Atlanta has given up 26 of their 46 goals either in the first 15 minutes of the second half or in the last 15 minutes of regulation. So no, not a real surprise. Same as Columbus, same situation. So because he was looking at numbers and things like that. Yes, Wiley E. with the Ted Lasso quote from the episode involving the movie Showgirls, and I'm not going to flash it as a lower third because it is there. And we got a special guest here. Jason, who is live from Columbus. It's Jason and Bart and me. Good morning, sir.
What's up? It's really cold here. I'm sure it's really cold there as well. But I think
did you get snow?
Here. Last night we did for a little bit, but it was like the movie giant flakes that don't stick.
Yeah.
So yeah, for like 45 minutes or so.
Oh my God.
I woke up to Snapchats from some friends in West Virginia with snow on the ground. So I was a little jealous because my rule is if it's going to be this cold, you might as well give me snow.
I mean, yes, absolutely. And then, I was looking at the weather for this weekend for the Oglethorpe semifinals and final. It's going to be 72 degrees. So
what?
Yep.
What?
Yeah, the high on Sunday is 72.
Oh man. But not a surprise. We traditionally, when Bart is in, Jason, we do reffing down here, and I know that there were a couple of MLS incidents that probably deserved some reffing down here.
No, we can talk some reffing down here. I have thoughts.
Okay, so reffing down here, I guess. Do you want to start with the Dominic Badji thrust punch? You want to start there?
It's a punch. It's a red card. Like I get in the playoffs, and I like the idea of not throwing as many cards, trying to manage games differently. I get that. I understand it. I like it. It's a punch. He punched him in the chest. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't come up with a fair justification to not send him off, and it changes the game. And this is what I always get to when we talk referees, and I try to be really clear about it because, and Bart, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the rule book, Mark Geiger said it one time to a ref class, and it's always something that stuck with me. The rule book, the laws of the game, you can bend them. Like, you can take a book and you can bend it a little bit, and you can use it to manage the game. You have to be able to justify your calls. Exactly, as Bart demonstrates. You have to be able to justify your calls. So, for example, the Thiago Almada 2 yellows. You can justify both yellows. I don't love them. They're soft. They're quick, whatever. You can justify them. You have to be able to justify the call or the no call. In this case, it's a punch. You can't justify not sending him off and not even giving him a yellow, but you can't justify not sending him off.
Well, that's where I'm at, Jason, is like, this is at least a yellow card for unsporting behavior.
At least.
It's pretty much, because we're not talking about serious foul play here. This is violent conduct, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And to your point, though, there's also like 2 other instances in this entire series where Badji probably should have picked up, if not a yellow card, a red card. And I feel like this was poorly managed by the referee, because I think a yellow card could have, I think we could have all been, I guess, okay, if that makes sense. Like, okay, he gets a yellow card. I get it. We're trying to manage the match. It's playoffs. We're getting feisty. The Red Bulls, that match, no one was going in soft in a challenge in that match anyway. Yep. And if you would have given a yellow card for that, I think people would have been okay with just like, okay, we're just trying to keep things cool.
We wouldn't still be talking about it if it had been given a yellow.
Absolutely. What I was trying to read up on is the Disco Committee's involvement, because this was supposedly seen by the referee on the field. He didn't act on anything.
Yep.
And so it's a little unclear where Disco can get involved here, because it's not given a red card on the field. There's not even any sort of, admonishment. There's no yellow or red or nothing. And I'm just not sure why there wasn't. I mean, this is one of those things where you have to.
Yeah, I think it would have to come down to the situation that we don't see all that often, where the disciplinary committee basically rebukes the referee. And they say, with the panel that does this, that the referee was wrong, because everything was seen. There's no way to get around like, well, we didn't know that. That's why you have VAR as well. the disciplinary committee would have to come in and say that either the VAR or the referee or both 100% got it wrong. And this is the kind of situation where, honestly, I feel like they should. It doesn't end up helping the Red Bulls really that much. And I hate to be caping for the Red Bulls here, but they should have had 45 minutes with a man advantage where that game could have turned in a very different way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where these things do matter in the refereeing decision. Is I know you want to be fair, but it's not fair to the Red Bulls, as if they deserve fairness. But it's not fair to the Red Bulls to allow Don Baggi to stay on the field, especially because then he's highly involved in the second goal that they score.
Yeah, it's a frustrating one. I think they got it wrong. I think there are limits to these things. Like, you can let play go, and you can let play go with warnings, and you can even let things that maybe would be a red be given a yellow.
Sure.
I'm all with that, but striking someone, punching someone, that's past a line that you can be flexible, in my opinion. I think that has to be given a red, and it should have been given a red on the field. And the VAR, if it wasn't, should have recommended the review to give the red. And if they got it wrong, then Disco needs to step in, and Baggi needs to be suspended for game 2.
Yeah, I think that would be the right thing to do.
Incident number 2. New England and Philadelphia, where New England, we don't have an injury update on Carlos Heel, but he took a nasty shot and he had to leave the match. And we always talk about game state and not having one of your studs. No card here either.
Yeah, it's got to be a yellow in my mind. You can't go red here because it's not serious foul play. It's not violent conduct. It is a very hard foul, not playing the ball. It's a statement foul, and it's the kind of play that Philly does, and it's something they do very well. And it's something that, frankly, they get away with often. And that's something that when you go back and you listen to some of the conversations that MLS referees have had about preparing for games. And yes, they prepare for games just like coaches and players do. They know how teams play. And when Philly gets away with those kinds of situations so often, it's very frustrating because for me, if I'm in charge of Major League Soccer, that's not what I want. I don't want my number 10s in this league getting poleaxed early in a game and having to leave a playoff game. And the shot that infuriated me watching this is in the background, you can see the cheering from Philadelphia players of the hit on Carlos Heel. It looked like the Cobra Kai watching LaRusso get beat up in A Karate Kid. Like, that's what it looked like. I thought one of them was going to yell, "Get a body bag." It's awful soccer. I'm sorry. You can talk about tactics and pressing and all that. This has nothing to do with any of that. This is bully ball, and Philadelphia gets away with it. It's got to be given a yellow. You can't go red there, and that needs to be understood. No matter he injured him. Okay, you can't go red there. It's not a red card foul, but you can go yellow, and you can try to get the game under control, and they didn't, and it had a huge impact on the game.
Yeah, it's not in the laws of the game necessarily, but our kind of 3 standards for fouls and how they elevate. You would say a careless foul, a reckless foul, and then there's serious foul play. This was a reckless foul. It was borderline serious foul play, to your point, Jason, but reckless and intentional, right? This was, we all know. And that's just one of those things that when you have pro and you have a group of full-time referees, that I would hope, to your point, Jason, that they're watching these things and noticing these trends on teams throughout the year, because we know that Philly specifically does this. We know that this is a tactic, if not more. And it's one of those where it should have been something that early on in the game, you can set a tone to say, no. We can play hard. We can play physical. We can be aggressive. We can be, a little uncontrolled at times. But when we're getting to this level of what looks to be almost intentionally trying to hurt players, then we do need to step it back. And that should have been a yellow card. And it wasn't like early in the match either. If I recall, it was 20 something minute. Like, that's not an early yellow card for a foul like this. You know what I'm saying?
I think it was after the 10th, if I remember right. I think it was
Oh, was
between
it?
the 10th
Okay.
and the 20th. So, but yeah, you're right. It's in that frame where you can go yellow there. It's not feeling too egregious to set that tone with that yellow in that moment. And I think the severity of the hit gives you the
Yes.
license to go yellow there to set that tone. And
The question I would have for you, Jason, is we talk about red cards or things we never ever want to see in a match, right? So like,
sure,
we don't want the Dom Baji incident. We don't ever want to see someone striking another player like that in a match.
Yeah.
Yellow cards we try to say are things we don't want to see a lot of in a match. And so the standard is, if that happens again, do we give that a yellow card? And my answer would be absolutely. That's something that I would want yellow cards to be given for. How do you feel about like that being that standard of, if that were to happen, that needs to be a yellow card just about every time?
Now, again, I'm biased because I'm biased, not against Philly here. I want to go further than that. I'm biased in that I am a proponent of attacking play. I'm a proponent of creative play. I want players to have the ball. I'm sorry, goalkeepers, defenders, I'm on the other side of this. Like, I want attacking, creative, exciting play. So, in my mind, those kinds of fouls have to be yellow cards because there's no intent to play the ball. You're not making a soccer play there. You're trying to hit someone to send a message. And I don't want to see this league be a league where attacking players aren't allowed to play. Not that they get license, and that's not what I want to see. This isn't like the NFL conversation about overly protecting the quarterback or protecting wide receivers. But you do have to protect these players to a degree because in that situation, Carlos Heel's helpless. Like he gets whacked.
Right.
And I think those have got to be yellow cards to set that tone. I'm fine in playoff games, especially and late in the season and trying to let the game play. I'm fine with referees having lots of conversations with players. I like that. I'm good with bringing guys together. Like Ismail Elfath, to me, I love the way he manages the game. He uses his personality. He'll give you that look. He'll pull you in. He'll slow the game down to make his point. Like, I love it because he doesn't have to just throw cards. That's great. But there are certain things to me that are just non-negotiable about throwing cards. And that kind of a hit on a number 10 in that game, to me, that's a yellow. No question.
Yeah.
So
I would agree.
So then my other question in this, and Jason, I'll start with you here. Why, and I don't know, maybe he's got more gold stars that we don't know about. Why was Pierre-Luc Lazier the guy in the middle for a Philadelphia-New England matchup?
I wish I knew. I mean, he's a referee who I think that was his 41st game in the league, if I remember the numbers right. This is his first year as a regular in the league. I was a little surprised he got the center for that one. And I was a little surprised based off the way he referees games that he got the center for that one. Referees have personalities. And I mean, you can look at the numbers and you can just watch with the eye test. Some referees call games tighter. Some referees don't. Some referees use cards more. Some referees call a lot of fouls, but don't use a lot of cards. So you have to kind of know those personalities and what fits a game, in my opinion, as an assigner. And in this case, I don't think it was the best assignment for what that match was pretty likely going to be. And I think that played out. In general, I think you do have to test up-and-coming referees, and you have to give them games to see if they can handle those moments. And I think it was Natalie Simon who had the Chicago-Charlotte game that was essentially a play-in game right at the end of the regular season. And it was her second game in MLS. And that shocked me when she got the assignment, but she did a great job. She managed the game really well. And we didn't talk about Natalie Simon's performance after that game. And that's what referees want. So you have to test them. In my opinion, with the way that game went, I don't think he passed the test. And I don't think we'll see him in the middle the rest of the playoffs.
Well, and to your point, Jason, it would be different if it were the well, I don't know if the Cincy Red Bulls match is perfect, but you think about like distance between each other in the standings. that Philly New England game is two teams that finished right next to each other.
Right. They
And
had
two
just
teams
played
that-
as well, and
Right.
that's going to add into it.
They don't
Two
like
teams that have bad blood already. I agree with you. It was probably not the best assignment job by Pro, but to expand on that, you have to at some point, give referees opportunities in big matches. Maybe he would have been better at the Columbus Atlanta match where, both teams out. I mean, we don't have Franco Ibarra anymore, so we don't have the walking almost red card on the field. So, it's not like we have that issue. That's a compliment to Ibarra. But
Yes.
absolutely.
But, and Columbus doesn't really have that type of player.
No.
Neither team is like going after it in that regard. Both teams are trying to play soccer, trying to play fun, aggressive soccer.
Yeah, you're managing it more from a tactical perspective,
right,
and a physical
right.
perspective in that game.
Probably, maybe that would have been a better spot for him because it's still a playoff game. It's still going to be feisty, but really not as dirty as a Philly New England match, which both teams aren't exactly known for being nice people.
This is true.
Lucas Zapala tonight is the man in the middle. Averages about 24 foul calls per match. He's top 5 in number of yellows per so far this season in MLS. What kind of a match are you anticipating here?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think this is a game where you're not going to see the level of physicality. I mean, go back to the last 2 games these teams played. I don't remember any egregious fouls. I don't remember any egregious moments of physicality. I think you'll see some tactical fouls for sure. You'll see some breaking up transitions, things like that you have to manage, and you're going to have to use the persistent infringement and ding teams for that with yellows if it gets to that point. Honestly, I think these are the kind of games that are a little bit easier to call from that sense of game management, because you don't have any guys that I think you're worried about crossing the line. You're not worried about tamping down physicality. I think you're in a position to where you have to worry about the big key match incidents in terms of those big decisions, but I don't think they're going to come from the red card side of things unless it's a dog-so situation with a foul. I think it's I don't want to say easier game, because I think it's going to be a very fast game, a very hard game to follow. You're going to do a lot of running here. You're going to need your ARs. You're going to need the VAR to manage a lot of things. You have 2 managers also who are boisterous on the sideline. So you got to manage that from time to time. But I don't think it's the same kind of a game to manage as like a Philadelphia game would be. No, I think it's an easier game to manage in general.
For example, last match, John, 4 fouls from Atlanta, 10 by Columbus, no yellow cards. That was Ismail Elfath, who we discussed is a little bit different, but I mean, he's not someone who's unafraid to call fouls.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we'll have, in a playoff game, sure, we'll probably have more, but we had 14 total fouls last match, and that was still a playoff type game in Atlanta.
That's about 10 less than the average on a game.
Yeah.
It's around 24, I think, is the average this season.
And this goes to something that I notice when I referee is when you get to some teams, you just know some teams are trying to play soccer, right? Mm-hmm. And you're going to have fewer fouls. Or if you do have fouls, it's because, they pulled someone from behind just to stop a promising attack, or, they were late on a challenge. It's not like a big egregious type of foul. Some teams, however, they like to foul people. And that's just, DNAs of soccer teams. But also to Jason's point, this match is going to be, I don't know if it's a lot of running necessarily, but you're going to be active the entire time. You may not be sprinting back and forth. This isn't long ball, but you will be moving a lot in this match. So as a referee, you have to be ready for that. And that does come into play when you're trying to assign referees to matches, is what type of match are you playing? And, do you need a more physically fit referee, or do you need someone who's a little bit more experienced and able to manage these things? A lot of factors go into that.
That's a really great point, and it's something that doesn't get brought up enough about the fitness of referees, because it affects your decision making. And these referees have to be incredibly fit across the board. There's a baseline that's very, very high, but there are referees who can handle the back and forth matches better. And there's referees who probably don't want on those games as much, but there's going to be other games that are really well suited to them. So the personality of referees and the characteristics they bring in, it's just like players and coaches. They're going to affect the game. They're part of the game. The assignment is critical to get it right. And it's something that I hope Pro continues to improve, getting the right referees on the right games.
All right. So,
Absolutely.
partner, what kind of a match are you expecting tonight? Obviously, you know Thiago Almada. What's it been like up at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground?
I think Atlanta United's in a really good place coming into this game. And I know that might sound weird without Thiago Almada, but that second half against Cincinnati and showing the grit and the defensive strength that they did playing with 10, I think it gives them a lot of confidence for playoff soccer. And look, playoff soccer is different. It's now this series and the best of 3 format, it's actually really interesting in the way that it's played out. I think the game ones have been better across the board because of this format. Game ones typically in a aggregate series are very cagey, very defensively oriented, especially for the team on the road. In these series, now the home teams have had the great level of success here. They've won every game but one. But you look at the 5-2 with Vancouver and LAFC. Vancouver's in that game pretty late. You go back to New England and Philadelphia, even with Philly jumping out to a 3-goal lead. New England's in that game pretty much all the way through. They have opportunities. It's a fascinating one because of that. And I think Atlanta showing that defensive solidity as the season went on. They never lost their ability to turn games late. And the numbers, and I've said it a lot over the past couple of days, but it blows my mind when you have 2 really good teams like Atlanta and Columbus, the difference in their goal differentials after the 75th minute. Atlanta's a +10 after the 75th minute, 21 goals. They've conceded 11, but 21 goals after the 75th minute. Columbus is a -5 after the 75th minute.
Yep.
They're not a good defensive second half team. They haven't been all season long. Something about the way that they play, does it wear them down a little bit? Do they lose that edge? Do they lose that grip on the game? Can they not maintain it for 90? What is it? It's tough. Personally, I think it comes down to the depth. And I don't think they have the quality of depth that Atlanta does. I think Atlanta has better players on the bench than Columbus, to make it really clear. What I think Columbus is good at doing, and this is a credit to Wilfred Nancy, he's an incredible tactician. And he is really good at hiding the deficiencies in his group and accentuating the positives. So he's able to get more out of guys, but they don't have the same level. And if you look at what they've done in the last 5 games, it's been the same guys who have played. It's been pretty much the same group that's played. It's been pretty much the same group off the bench. Now he's mixed and matched the pieces. And somebody like Sean Zawadzki is a really important factor tonight because he's played as a center back on the left. He's played as a center back on the right. He's played as a wing back like he did against Atlanta. He's played as a central midfielder, which is what he came up as. Where he is kind of changes the personality of the group a little bit. So Atlanta's going to have to react to how Columbus plays, not just the names on the team sheet. But Columbus is going to have to do the same because I don't know what Atlanta United's lineup's going to be. I don't know who's replacing Almada. I don't know what that does to change the tactics, not the game model, not the way that they're going to want to play. They want the ball. They're going to want to have the ball. They're going to want to set up shop in the attacking half. That doesn't change whether Atlanta's been with 3 center backs, with 2, with 3-4-3, with 4-3-3. That hasn't changed. But the tactics to get there will be different with different personnel. And the other thing about Atlanta United as well, think back to it this season, how many times you saw a starting lineup graphic of 11 names on it, and you weren't quite sure what the formation was going to be.
Yeah.
And then you thought it was going to be one way, and it's not that way. It's actually something different. I would not be surprised to see a little bit of that from both managers, the punch and counter punch of what the team sheet looks like, and then how it actually plays out, and then how it actually changes in the first half in reaction to what the other team does. the chess match in this is going to be amazing for the tactics nerds, for the game model nerds, for the coaching nerds. I can't wait because I love both of these managers and how they approach the game. It's how I feel the game. I love it. And I'm really excited to see Atlanta tonight in a game where all the pressure is on Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
All the pressure is on Columbus because if they don't win, they can get closed out in Atlanta next week. If they do win, then they're in control. But if they don't win, it's just like a penalty shootout where you go first, where you should have the advantage, you don't convert, all that pressure doubles down on your back. And that's what Columbus is facing tonight.
Broadcast plans, what are they, sir?
Star 94 tonight. And please, if you guys can share the tweets and messages from Mike and myself, we're on Star 94 starting at 7 o'clock, Five Stripes Countdown. Kickoff 7:55, so we will have a long time to dig into this game. Thank you, Fox, for also being on the TV side.
Yep.
It's on Apple TV, MLS Season Pass as well. If you want to listen to us during the game, you've got to sync it up. We don't have the Road Radio in Apple yet. If they ask for feedback after the season, please continue to ask for it. We've been told that that's the plan for next year. Hopefully it will be. But you're going to have to sync us up old school style. You can always listen on the Odyssey app as well. Just point to Star 94, the Atlanta United app, all those things. It's a playoff opener, and it feels like we've been waiting for a while for this.
You ain't kidding, especially with the Hallmark movie snowflakes that you guys are getting up there in Columbus.
I don't think we're going to get any more. I think we're good with that. It's just going to be cold tonight. And I asked Gonzalo Pineda about that at the end of media availability Monday, and he feels pretty good about playing in the cold. Like, both teams have to adjust to the quick cold. It was pretty warm up here in Columbus over the weekend as well. So for two teams that want the ball and want to play, I think they'll be okay. I wonder if late in the game, if it'll have any impact. So I'm curious to watch that, but I don't think we're going to expect any bad conditions. I think it's just going to be cold.
All right. Well, we'll be listening, my friend. Have a safe call and say hi to Mike.
Adios.
All right. There goes Jason. And we will continue on with Reffing Down Here and Wednesdays with Bart. There's stuff to talk about across the board. We can do rapid fire if you wish. We have the two matchups with the women's national team going up against Colombia. What's your Cliff's Notes thoughts on those two? Nobody got hurt.
Yeah, no one got hurt. And I think this is I'm really hopeful. My thoughts are I'm really hopeful we have a full-time head coach by December, because I do think Colombia needs to just hire, I forget his name, but the dude who's been the interim / also took over on Andrade was out for the World Cup match. I forget his name, but he's a young guy. He seems to really connect well with the players. Mm-hmm. But they're also in a weird, this time is just weird for both programs because there's nothing really to play for. And you can talk about the Olympics, that's true. But for the U.S., we don't really have a coach. We're kind of transitioning to a new generation, which was needed. But it's not a full transition, which I don't know if that's how it should be anyway. But Twyla's not really picking which way to go. We haven't seen any really new tactics other than, we have Sonnet in the midfield. But it's just a weird period of time. And we saw that mostly in that first game when it was 0-0 on a cold night in Salt Lake. And it just was kind of not a fun match to have to watch. The second match, and we saw in the second half of the second match, was more fun. And I think it was because you had players come onto the field who weren't trying to necessarily play within the tactical framework that they've been having to be put into for the past 3-4 years. And they were trying to play a little bit more free and flowing, which I think is how we should have been playing anyway. But it was definitely more interesting. And I'm hopeful that whoever the new coach is, they get in within the next month and they can take a look at those matches and go, okay, who provides the best chance for us to not just win CONCACAF Women's Gold Cup coming up in February, but also win a gold medal. Not who deserves a send-off, but who deserves to actually play on this team.
Joey Lynch this morning on the 280-character app. Amidst reports of USWNT interest, Tony Gustafsson was asked by Robbie Thompson of Network 10 if he'll still be the Matildas coach come the Paris Olympics. Quote, I love this team, and we have unfinished business to do, end quote. So
yeah, okay. So,
take that for.
I'm sure we can pay more than Australia can. So
take that with whatever grains of salt you wish. Also, an update through Jonathan Tannenwald, a member of the Super Falcons, has just messaged a reporter saying that she has not received her $60,000 payment yet.
Shocking.
Hoping that the Nigerian Football Federation will not play any games with their money, pay it to them soon, and they'll be keeping an eye on it, as that individual has long said. So, color me shocked that players ain't getting paid.
I mean, I think Colombia is dealing with a similar situation I was reading as well. So, this is just par for the course when it comes to women's international football, where we make a progress, and FIFA I don't want to give FIFA too much credit on anything right now because I'm really mad at them, but to give them some credit, and they did increase the prize money, and part of that, the most of that increase was to the just physical making it to the World Cup and to the players individually. So props to them for doing that, but are they doing anything to put pressure on these organizations, these federations, to actually give that money to the players? I don't see it. And so maybe FIFA needs to figure out a better way for both men's and women's side to get money to the players directly. I think that would be something I would like to see possibly change, rather than just giving it to the federations and saying, well, here's $60,000 per player. Can we just give that money straight to the players? I don't know. That might be an improvement I would like to see, but that would require FIFA to do something that actually benefits the players of the game and not themselves. So,
well, and then there's also bringing on Novak Djokovic to present the female Ballon d'Or. See, I figured for the final.
Listen, as a tennis fan, I don't like Djokovic. Sorry, I don't.
I'm not.
This made me so mad because
wait, comma, I'm shocked.
I know. It was just I don't watch these things because I don't like. The same with like most of the movie award shows. I'm like, I'll read about it on Twitter. But for this particular award, it's supposed to reward excellence to female athletes. And, there's nothing wrong with having necessarily a male athlete present an award for females, as long as you're also opening.
Where's Marta?
Right. As long as you're also open to a female athlete, let's pretend Marta doing the award for the, Ballon d'Or for the men's next year. I don't think there's necessarily a problem with either side.
Absolutely. I'm gesticulating wildly, so continue.
Yeah. But the problem is that Djokovic, is not a male soccer player. He's from a different sport entirely. He also is he's known for not being a great supporter of women getting equal treatment, let alone equal pay. Exactly. And then from the clips I saw and what I read, it's not like he, was talking about great things about women's soccer. He was talking about himself.
Duh.
We don't need that. What is this? You could have had, I don't know. You could have had even if you just have a famous male footballer who won the award come up and say like, hey, what it takes to win this award and all these types of things. And that person who has won it this year is my best friend, Aitana Bonmatí, that would have been fine. But it's the every single thing, and then you have rightfully the women's players being very upset that they scheduled this almost specifically during a women's international break.
Yes.
Where, especially a lot of the players were not going to be able to attend this. I mean, I don't think Sam Kerr was able to be there, if I recall, because obviously she was playing some matches in Australia, which shout out to Australia selling out Optus Stadium for their Olympic qualifying tournament.
She was kind of busy.
Yeah. And so it's just another instance where it's like, okay, it's just very clear you're not even thinking about the women's side of things when you're planning these things. And that it is all summarized by the fact that we have World Cups chosen, men's World Cup host sites chosen through 2034, but we still don't know where the women's World Cup in 3.5 years is going to be hosted. And it's we're making a lot of progress. I do not want that to be lost. We're making a lot of progress in visibility, in financial support of the women's game. And it always can be better, that's sure, but we are making progress. But we're not making progress when it comes to organizers at the highest level actually giving time, thought, and energy to the women's side of things, because they just don't care. They think they care, and Infantino will say he's care. What's his name? Blatter said he's the godfather of women's football, right? They think they care because they did it one time. It's representative of how they live their life with women, John. And that's the bigger thing, is they think about their wife, on her birthday and at an anniversary. They don't think about her on a daily basis. I have a daughter. Who gives a shit?
There's the explicit rating for the day.
I thought I was going to do that on the Red Bulls and Cincy thing, because they were both kind of being dumbasses in that situation. But
dumbass does not go explicit rating. That's fine.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, not to me anymore.
No. Good.
No.
Okay.
Good
to know.
No, when you drop an S-bomb on the show, that's an explicit rating.
Regardless, my point is that we need to get to the next generation. And I think that's the other problem I have, is Infantino is not a distinctly different generation from Sepp Blatter, right? We need to turn the page, get to the next generation, so that we can have decision makers who are trying to actually grow the game to everyone and not grow their pocket. Listen, I studied this stuff in college 15 years ago, but I did not pay attention in media law for FCC violations. Sorry.
No, I mean, it's
libel and slander. I got you.
Well, yeah, but four card says it was one of the 7 magic words from Uncle Charlie. But
if 12-year-olds are listening to this, great. Listen, I'm the referee who allows them to curse on the field anyway. So
yeah,
I'm a bad influence. As long as the parents can't hear it, I don't care.
Yeah, well,
because when mom hears it, they get mad.
Well, all right. So then, before we go, let's get into the Kai Wagner alleged situation, but talk about it in a larger.
This was the other reason why I was reading the disco stuff, because I wasn't sure where disco can play into this, what all authority it has. But yeah, let's talk about it.
It is alleged, and Kai Wagner is still practicing with Philadelphia, getting ready for match day 2, which is coming up in like early February. It is alleged that Kai Wagner he spoke a slur to Bobby Wood of the New England Revolution, doing so in German. But the irony of it is that Bobby Wood played 10 years of his career in Germany. So he would understand what Kai Wagner is alleged to have said.
Yes.
The irony that's attached to that is amazing, if it does in fact come to pass. When it comes to on-field behavior, let me phrase it this way. When it comes to on-field behavior and what folks say to one another, when it comes to lines being drawn about what you can and can't say, where are you as an on-field ref when it comes to this kind of stuff? Where are you when it comes to a ref with experience when it comes to hearing these kinds of things allegedly to have been said? I mean, obviously, we can go back to Dante Von Zier and all this kind of stuff. But when it comes to handling it as a center ref, have you or any of your friends or compatriots had to deal with a situation like this? And how do you compartmentalize it? How do you process what's going on in a situation like this?
Well, first off, it's hard because as much as you want to support the player who has been aggrieved, you can't just act because they said something, right? I mean, I forget which clip it was, but, there was a clip, I feel like it was from 20 years ago, where a player spit on his own shirt and then said, "Oh, look, he spit on me," So I'm not saying you don't believe them. It's just, if you don't see it happen, if you don't hear it, if you can't witness and testify to that it happened, it's really hard to act, especially in that moment. And, that's where, fortunately, in the modern game, we do have videos of all these things. We have video footage and audio probably of all this of this incident. I mean, how many microphones do you have on a soccer field nowadays, especially, with MLS Cup playoffs? So I'm hopeful that this happens to the problem is just the referee doesn't have any real control over this. We don't have any authority here because yes, it happens on the field, but if we don't hear it, see it, whatever, all we can do is take down what the players report, send that in our post-match report and say, hey, this was an alleged incident. It needs to be investigated. But when it comes to the match itself, we don't really have a whole lot unless we heard it,
Yeah. And so that was why I wanted to ask about that when it comes to processing information, because we can all see something on television, and obviously today with all the parabolic microphones and everything, you can isolate and look for game feeds and things like that. But that was why I wanted to ask you about on the field activity and participation and making sure that you're doing your job to the best of your ability with the information that you have on hand.
And the problem, John, also is, and I'm not saying that Kai Wagner didn't or didn't say this, but I can't police every conversation two players have with each other on the field, because then I would have to have 22 of me.
Yeah.
And we only have 3 referees out there, 4 if you want to give the 4th official any sort of responsibility. It's hard to be involved in all of these things, right? And this is where something that I do truly believe, if I could change something within refereeing of soccer, is to try to find ways to add more officials on the field. I remember, what was it, the mid-2000s, where we had goal line officials, with a stick, not even a flag on it, but a stick. I don't know if that's the route, but, there just needs to be more officials on the field to help with stuff like this, because you're going to miss it between the center referee, who, again, can't be in every position listening to every conversation, to the ARs, who, unless it happens in their little quadrant, the likelihood they see or hear it is very low, and the 4th official, who just stands in the middle and is really more paying attention to what each coach and bench is saying than what's happening on the field. It's hard, and I'm hopeful that with the the amount of technology we have and the amount of just surveillance, if you will, that we have on a field, it will improve. But it's really hard to police these things, because it does happen. It happens probably more than we could ever imagine. And it's unfortunate that something like this can't be punished during the game.
Mm-hmm. 7:55 kick tonight for Atlanta United Columbus Crew. Star 94 pregame show at 7:00. So it'll be the super hyper mega super long pregame show for Atlanta and Crew. It was great to have Jason on. Great to have Bart on. What's your next Soccer for US POD? Have we given you enough to talk about?
Yeah. Going to record something this week about the women's friendlies, and then probably another topic, because I'll be honest, these friendlies were just kind of
nobody got hurt.
They happened,
Yes.
And it was fun. Don't get me wrong. Like, it was really cool to see Big Fish get her first goal. It was really cool to see Jaden Shaw get her first goal off the foot of another youngster. But which, by the way, John, sorry to go back to that. My Cliff's notes is people who claim that the U.S.'s talent is somehow dried up.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cute.
Yeah, that's cute.
It is, but we'll record something about that, but then throw in another topic. I'm actually working on some research right now, John. It's probably going to be a long form article, but maybe a podcast as well, talking about the attendance at U.S. soccer matches, because I think this year it's fair to say that the attendance has not been what U.S. soccer would want. And there are a lot of factors to that. But when you compare that to what's going on in MLS and how MLS just reached, another milestone in its, average attendance, which is skewed because we've added a team, Charlotte, with a larger stadium, Nashville with a larger stadium, but still, we're 22-some thousand people a match is really good for MLS. And you look at USL and NWSL and how they're increasing their average attendance, and U.S. soccer's is decreasing. I want to look at why that is. I'm in that fact-finding stage where we got a lot of research questions to figure this out. My friend U.S. Keeper, who keeps basically a stat log on every single game, was kind enough to share his attendance figures over the years. And it has been down this year. Part of that is obviously we're not in a World Cup qualifying year. So, but anyway, we're going to look into this and hopefully not necessarily find a solution, but find maybe some reasons as to why this might be, or just, is it the worst thing ever that the national teams aren't getting, the attendance we want if the domestic leagues are steadily increasing,
Price point and day of the week. Two things that we left on the table: the projected roster for the Paris games, and apparently IFAB is protecting referees by saying no to live audio VAR conversations. IFAB exec Lucas Brood revealed the discussions will remain private for now.
One thought on the Paris games. First off, back to the women who just finished. Unfortunately, their Pan-Am run came short, but you had a bunch of teenagers playing the Chile senior team because Pan American games are at the wild west of roster rules. Actually, a pretty decent performance. You make the semifinals, you only lose 2-1. Like, that's a good experience for those ladies. Similar with the men they play today, I believe. A bunch of guys who probably aren't true first choices in that U20-ish pool. Making a semifinal is still really good. So hopeful that they can win it. Maybe they're playing for a trophy on the weekend, but just good experience to build to Paris, right?
Yes.
But we don't have Caleb Wiley down there because obviously he's playing tonight.
It's kind of busy.
Who, to me, is a shoo-in for the Paris games. And to be quite honest, and I think I've been saying this for a while, would not surprise me if he's gobbled up by a European team this offseason. But probably the most likely is he's not on the Atlanta United roster. In my opinion, I don't think he's on the roster by the end of next season. I think, and that's a good thing. I think there's a very high likelihood, especially if he goes to the Olympics and plays well, that he could be snatched up by a team who needs a very solid attacking left back.
Yeah, it's a center back in outside back university, otherwise known as Atlanta United.
Yeah. Hey, Atlanta is figuring out a way to solve the U.S. soccer's left back problem. I don't know how we're doing it, but George Bello kind of screwed himself over by his club choice, but he's kind of getting back into things with LASK or LASK or however it is. Good for him, LASK. Yeah. I'm not sure which maybe the level he should have gone to in the beginning, but
or maybe his was it Circle Bruges or Club Bruges?
Circle Bruges, yeah. Like again, that would have been a perfectly good level for him. And he could have grown instead of unfortunately meeting challenges. And part of that's not his fault. The club sucked. Anyway.
Being on the bench at Arminia Bielefeld and having managers go and being relegated again and all that kind of stuff.
Sometimes playing at a top club in a lower league is better than playing in a top league at a bad club. Unless you're Ajax.
Who knew? Anyway, that's Bart, and we have definitely done the World Cup version of holding up the board.
Yeah.
With the extra minutes. So
I don't see anyone complaining in the comments. So.
No one's complaining because there's always stuff to talk about. So Bart will be back again next Wednesday. Bart's got SoccerForUSPod with that US Keeper. Buy the man a coffee. I don't know if that's what he's drinking right now.
I'm drinking coffee right now.
So buy the
pumpkin spice coffee because it's cold this morning.
Yes, buy me a coffee. So how do they buy you a coffee, Bart?
You go to buymeacoffee.com/SoccerForUSPod.
What do you say?
Yeah.
There you go. So SoccerForUS, buymeacoffee.com/SoccerForUSPod. So that's Bart. We had Jason, we had Dylan, we had a full Wednesday. Later today, it's going to be catching up with our friends in Greenville and in Chattanooga with USL League One. We also catch up with one of the new franchises in Maryland, DMV Elite. Those will be up later today on the network. So for
you going to catch up with the new UPSL franchise up in Chattanooga, by the way?
I didn't know there was a new UPSL.
I'll send you it after we get done here.
Yeah, so send me the link, and I'll send you the stuff that we left on the table we'll talk about next week. So he's Bart. I'm John. We're out. We'll be back at it again tomorrow at 9:05, the USL show. Kaylor Hodges joining us at 10. Nico Moreno joining us at 10:30. Another full show because that's what we do. So because it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. Mucha plati, all play it safe, all of the other stuff that we say to end the show. And so here's your ending billboard. That means we're done.